So to start with, Gen Z is not a monolith. However, this presentation aims to touch upon the most relevant perspectives to this conversation as possible. It was developed by one of our Gen Z members. I created these slides for the Indivisible Colorado Indivisible Group Leader Basecamp Summit last summer, but we wanted to share them with you tonight. And let it be known that due to discussions of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine, there are some words that might be triggering to some. Furthermore, all points discussing the condemnation of violence are directed at those guilty of such acts, not the innocent populations of the region at large. When we talk about engaging Gen Z in our political moment, it's essential to recognize the landscape they've grown up in. What may look like apathy is often exhaustion, disillusionment, or grief. Many aren't disengaged, they're overwhelmed, they're angry, they're trying to survive in a world that feels like it's already burning. They've seen leaders fail them. They've grown up with escalating climate disasters, gun violence, pandemic mismanagement, economic precarity, and genocide live streams for violence. Gen Z didn't ease into political consciousness. They were thrown into it. Many Gen Zers ask, is anyone going to fight for us? We have to show the answer is yes, and that we're building alongside them. Many don't see the democratic politics as a solution because they've never been shown that the system can respond to their needs. They grew up during Trump 1.0. They haven't seen care translate into change or liberal democracy deliver on its promises. And the truth is, in a post trickle down economics, 9/11, Dobbs, October 7th world, that trust has been damaged. This generation has grown up with active shooter drills as a normal part of life, come of age amid overlapping once in a lifetime crises. Wars in the Middle East, the 2008 financial collapse, accelerating climate breakdown, the failures of the drug war, and the global trauma of COVID. Inherited a media ecosystem with unprecedented exposure to unfiltered global trauma online, creating a constant state of ambient anxiety. Watched institutions glorify profit and slash protections, creating extreme precarity in housing, employment, and healthcare. Witnessed leaders repeatedly fail to protect people and the planet. Seen AI start to make entire career paths obsolete before they've even entered the workforce. So what do? We have to, number one, meet them where they are in digital spaces where they already gather, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. And also at climate protests, mutual aid events, independent bookstores, and college campuses. Don't just wait for them to come to you. Two, lead with honesty and optimism. We have to be honest about how broken the system is and still show how action can shift power. Be real about where the system has failed. Only then will hope be credible, and make space to show where it can be reshaped. Number three, value their cultural fluency. Gen Z occupies a media space where they both create and consume chronically online culture. This makes them more responsive to engagement that speaks their language. Their ability to spot inauthenticity and engage with cultural subtext, think meme culture, is advanced. Leverage this. Don't underestimate it. They respond to media that codes integrity and resist anything that smells like brand speak or spin. Number four, prioritize horizontal coalition building. Gen Z doesn't want to be recruited. They want to collaborate. The ask isn't how do we get Gen Z to care about our agenda? It's how do we co-create one that actually acknowledges their needs? For much of Gen Z, values like gender inclusivity and indigenous sovereignty are not radical, they're baseline. The source of far more existential angst is the prospect of economic mobility, material security, and a livable future. Many in Gen Z have few illusions of home ownership. Number 5, speak in values, not parties. Frame messaging around dignity, justice, safety, and shared humanity. We stand for human rights and accountability across the board. Language like this resonates more than traditional partisan lines. Focus on the interconnectedness of struggles like climate change, reproductive freedom, and economic justice to inform strategic responses to broken systems. Emphasize the fight against corporate power and forces like Wall Street. Number 6, offer tangible, bite-sized action. Gen Z is navigating chronic overstimulation and algorithm fatigue. Giving them clear activism actions can help restore some sense of efficacy. Small wins create momentum and can build confidence in representatively democratic systems. ResistBot is a chatbot that can help you call or send letters to Congress, find protests, and more. I'll put the link to the chatbot and the user guide in the chat. Coordinated postcard writing. An example would be, on this day, send postcards condemning ICE's connection to the private prison operator Geo Group, which has a processing center located in Aurora, as you just heard. Send them to Nine News Denver, address Kyle Park, raise visibility, and push for media scrutiny of private prison contracts in Colorado. A coordinated social media blitz example would be at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. We're all posting to one of our social accounts an account infographic countering false claims about such a specific issue. Share, repost, tag your reps. This helps counter disinformation and builds group action into media rhythm. Or encourage them to use 5 calls to call senators and representatives about a specific issue. We need to tailor our messages to different Gen Z mindsets. Here are some examples. Number 1, nihilists or disengaged non-voters. Many are apathetic to systems that have only overpromised and underdelivered. Highlighting mutual aid and community projects as a model for building new systems can provide hope and a path forward. Furthermore, data shows that when registered, young voters are much more likely to vote. After years of outsourcing, the DNC is investigating and registration initiatives engage with this, show that voting is still a vital tool. Georgia from New Era is here to talk about this later tonight. Number 2, protest voters. In recent years, many withheld their vote or voted third party, most often in protest of the war on Gaza. These young people are already engaged, but their idealism, while powerful, can sometimes strain the coalitional nature of a democratic system. They see Gaza not as fringe, but as central, deeply connected to anti-racism, climate justice, demilitarization, economics, and the very question of what kind of world they're trying to build. If we treat it as an inconvenient debate, we'll lose them. They're not interested in being given party-approved scripts that ignore the grief and rage they're holding. It's important to both acknowledge that the Democratic Party isn't always aligned with justice and to make the case for why civic action within the system matters too. We have to show that grief and electoral strategy are not mutually exclusive, that fighting for Gaza includes down-ballot races, local actions, and coalition building that shapes future foreign policy. Number 3 are manosphere voters, radicalized, far-right, or passive voters. Some have been drawn toward far-right ideologies, often out of disillusionment or economic despair. Reactionary voices offer them false clarity. Are drawn to communism, anarchy, and Marxist-style socialism. I know from my own experience when I was 18 and a self-identified anarcho-syndicalist, it was connected to the same reasons that run throughout this presentation, especially disillusionment with the current system and thinking that it was broken beyond repair. The core move is separating 2 claims they're fusing together. Number 1, the system as currently practiced is failing us. This is true. We should agree loudly. Number two, therefore, the system itself, self-governance, elections, checks on power, is the thing that failed. This doesn't follow. This is where we can intervene. A frame that tends to land is democracy hasn't been tried and found wanting so much as it's been captured, hollowed out, and underused. Gerrymandering, dark money, a captured judiciary, weak enforcement, none of that is democracy working correctly and disappointing people. It's democracy not being allowed to function, which is fixable, structural, describable problem. These Gen Z mindsets all trace back to a common root, deep, widespread distrust in institutions. The Gen Z mindset outlined that I just outlined all trace back to a common root that I just mentioned. That distrust is important to understand because it also underpins much of the MAGA base. Ironically, Trump exemplifies bad faith institutional action. Let's message that heavily and push harder on the forces putting pressure on MAGA. Elon Musk attacked over the deficit spending in the reconciliation bill. Joe Rogan openly questioned ISIS tactics. Marjorie Taylor Greene opposed military action in the Middle East, demanded the release of the Epstein files, and eventually resigned. Tucker Carlson is also calling for transparency with the Epstein files. Theo Vaughn is pushing back on the war in Gaza. Ben Shapiro has been questioning the tariffs, and Candace Owens is calling out corruption in the Trump administration. These are not reliable voices, but they're still showing where the coalition is breaking. MAGA fractures open the door for some to consider a shift in perspective. Trump was always a neocon. Trump and Epstein were friends. Trump is the swamp. After seeing little to no response from the Biden administration to protest against Israel's war on Gaza, many Gen Z voters were left feeling the system is too entrenched and too embedded with AIPAC and other lobbying groups to meaningfully change. To re-engage them in protests, voting, and activism, we need to clearly illustrate how political shifts can happen and how change, while nonlinear, builds over time through sustained pressure and participation. We've seen encouraging movement in this direction among candidates in the primaries all over the country. But without ranked choice voting, third parties can't win at scale. The viable path is to elect progressive Democrats. Kat Abu-Ghazalia, a Gen Z congressional candidate, unfortunately just barely lost in the Illinois primary. She is unafraid to condemn the Trump administration and Democratic leadership and exemplifies the strategy. She said, if Jeffries, Schumer, or any elected Democrats justify the bombing in Iran or shrug it off, they need to step down. We need Democrats with a real vision. This is the energy that can bring protest voters back into the fold. Her stance allows us to see how we can call for institutional change through accountability, not disengagement. We need to stand behind, support, and volunteer for young progressive candidates. How do we change the party from within? Run for something or support new leadership. Expanding coalition spaces like Denver's No Kings Activism Fair last summer, where Free Palestine tents stood beside indivisible tents. That's the future. It reflects how core justice issues, from Palestine to reproductive rights to climate justice to economic reform, can coexist without competition, rooted in shared opposition to authoritarianism. Fostering class consciousness as foundational, rooted in America's labor history and long tradition of democratic struggle. It's central to the future we're building within a just, inclusive framework alongside a new generation of authentic, democratic, progressive leaders. Fighting for legislative frameworks that protect labor, privacy, and human agency in an AI-driven economy. Embedding AI policy and worker protection focuses into our political messaging isn't optional, it's urgent. Voices in the growing woman sphere to counter. The Womanosphere is a reactionary online movement selling a repackaged version of traditional gender norms as aspirational lifestyle content for young women. Some are also called trad wives, as in traditional wives. The ones to counter are Brett Cooper, Alex Clark, Ali Bellis Stuckley, and Riley Gaines. The pro-democracy voices to support are Upland Sandy, Jack Schlossberg, Suzanne Lambert, and Luke. And here are links to their Instagram or social media. In-person actions we can organize, such as mutual aid, co-organizing a food drive at the Denver University to connect with students around real needs. Events, attend a poetry reading at a local bookstore or an open mic night at City-O City. Arrange to bring stickers, pamphlets, etc. for a low-key table. Ask if someone within your organization could make a pitch between performances about activism efforts. In closing, what Gen Z deserves is a movement that matches their courage, channels their grief, and honors their vision. They don't need to be saved, they need to be seen. And they need to know they're not doing it alone. Thank you so much.